Think about the last time you were in complete darkness. Not the darkness of a bedroom with a charging light blinking in the corner. Not the glow of a street lamp bleeding through curtains. Real darkness. The kind where you genuinely cannot see your hand in front of your face. For most people, that experience is rare. A power outage maybe, a camping trip. A moment that felt slightly disorienting, almost wrong. But for the vast majority of human history, that darkness came every single night. Reliable, total, uninterrupted. And something extraordinary happened inside the human body because of it. Today on Ancestor Tactics, we're exploring one of the most overlooked pieces of ancestral biology, darkness. What it did for our ancestors, what chronic artificial light is doing to the inherited systems still running in your body, and why reclaiming the dark might be one of the most powerful things you can do for your sleep, your mood, and something much deeper than both. Here's something most people never consider. For roughly 300,000 years, every single human being who ever lived went to sleep in complete darkness. No exceptions. The only light sources available were the sun, the moon, the stars, and fire. And fire produces a very specific quality of light. Warm, flickering, low intensity, heavily weighted toward red and amber. Not the cold blue-white of a phone screen. Nothing like the flat overhead glare of modern indoor lighting. This distinction is not cosmetic, it is biological. Because light isn't just illumination. Light is information. And your body has been reading that information and making critical decisions based on it for hundreds of thousands of years. Here's how it works. Deep in the brain sits a hormone called melatonin, the body's signal for night. When the light around you shifts from blue-white to warm amber, as it does naturally at sunset, melatonin begins to rise. Body temperature drops slightly, heart rate slows. The nervous system begins its turn inward toward the deep repair work that only happens in darkness. Immune function, cellular recovery, emotional processing. The biological maintenance your body cannot do while it's busy being awake. This system is ancient, precise, and for 300,000 years it worked exactly as designed. Then in 1879, Thomas Edison demonstrated the first practical light bulb, and within a single century, a blink in evolutionary time, the entire system was thrown into chaos. Today, over 80% of the world's population lives under skies so saturated with artificial light that the Milky Way is no longer visible. Most people spend their evenings bathed in blue spectrum light from screens, LED bulbs, and overhead lighting, the exact signal that tells the brain it is still daytime. The result? Melatonin is suppressed, sometimes by hours, sometimes by as much as 85%. The hormonal signal your body has been expecting at nightfall for 300,000 years simply doesn't arrive, and the body keeps waiting. The downstream effects touch almost every system. Sleep becomes shallow, less deep repair, less REM processing, less of the emotional consolidation that keeps the mind stable. Mood destabilizes because melatonin and serotonin are directly linked. Disrupt one and you disrupt the other. Metabolism shifts because appetite regulation, insulin sensitivity, and fat storage are all circadian processes that artificial light quietly unravels. Even immune function declines because a significant portion of immune activity is coordinated by the very hormonal cycle we've interrupted. This isn't theoretical. Studies on shift workers, people living in permanent circadian disruption, show significantly elevated rates of depression, metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disease, and certain cancers compared to the general population. Most of us aren't shift workers, but most of us are spending every evening in artificial light until the moment we close our eyes. The disruption is quieter, but it's there, every night. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because the loss of darkness isn't only physiological, something experiential was lost too, and this part rarely gets talked about. For our ancestors, the hours after sunset had a completely different texture than the hours before it. Darkness enforced a natural stillness. The pace of life slowed. Fire created a bounded circle of warmth and light, and beyond that circle, the dark. Inside it, closeness, story, reflection. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer communities consistently note that evening hours carry a distinct social and emotional quality. The practical work of the day gives way to something softer. Storytelling, song, a quality of presence and connection that simply doesn't emerge during daylight hours. Think about what that means. Every night, without exception, our ancestors were pulled out of the doing of life and into a quieter, more inward state, not by choice or discipline, by darkness itself. The nervous system that emerges as melatonin rises, the one our ancestors inhabited every evening, is genuinely different from the daytime mind. More associative, more emotionally open, more attuned to the body's subtle signals. It's the state where insight arrives, where grief moves, where the events of the day get processed into something integrated. We've engineered that state almost entirely out of existence, and we've replaced it with more stimulation, more information, more screen time, right up until sleep. Is it any wonder so many people feel they can never fully switch off? Here's the good news. The ancestral biology you're working with is remarkably responsive. It doesn't need perfection, it needs signal. Consistent, honest signal that the day is ending and the body can begin its turn inward. The single most powerful shift is simple. Change your light environment after sunset. Dim the overhead lights. Switch to warm amber bulbs or use candles. If you're on screens, use blue light blocking glasses or switch your display to its warmest setting. This isn't aesthetic preference, it's biological communication. You're telling a 300,000-year-old system that night is actually coming. Protect the hour before sleep as sacred. This is the most sensitive window of the day. What you expose yourself to in that final hour, light, information, emotional content, directly shapes what your nervous system does overnight. Give it something it can work with. Sleep in genuine darkness. Blackout curtains, an eye mask, devices out of the bedroom. The body's repair processes are sensitive to even low-level light during sleep. Your ancestors didn't sleep next to glowing screens. Neither should you. And where you can, reintroduce fire, candles, a fireplace, a fire pit outside. The flickering warmth of open flame has a measurable relaxation effect that goes beyond simply having dim light. Our ancestors gathered around fire every single evening of their lives. That ritual had a biological function. A nervous system calibrated over hundreds of thousands of years of firelit nights still responds to it, still recognizes it, still exhales in its presence. But there's one more dimension to this that I don't want to skip past. The ancestral relationship with darkness wasn't only about sleep quality, it was cosmological. It was how humans located themselves in something larger. Every culture in history had a living relationship with the night sky. Stars were navigation, the moon was a calendar, the cycles of light organized agricultural timing, ceremonial life, and a deeply felt sense of belonging to natural rhythms larger than any individual. The night wasn't empty, it was full of meaning, of orientation, of a felt connection to something vast. Today, most people have never seen the Milky Way, not because they've chosen not to, but because the sky above their home is so saturated with artificial light that it simply isn't visible. That severance is so complete, so normalized, that most people don't even register it as a loss. But stand under a genuinely dark sky for the first time, really dark, the kind where the stars are dense enough to cast faint shadows, and something in the body responds. Something that isn't quite wonder and isn't quite grief. Something older than either. Your ancestors knew that sky. They read it, navigated by it, built ceremonies around it. It told them where they were, what season it was, what was coming. We've traded that orientation for the ability to extend the day indefinitely, and something in us, something old and quiet, is still waiting for the dark to return. Tonight, try something simple. Turn off the overhead lights an hour before sleep. Light a candle if you have one. Put the phone face down and sit in the near dark for a few minutes. Notice what happens. Not dramatically, just notice. There's a good chance something in you will exhale that you didn't know was held. That exhale is ancient. It's your nervous system receiving a signal it's been waiting for. A signal that says, the day is done. The watch is over. You can rest now. Your ancestors heard that signal every night of their lives. It came with the dying of the light, the gathering around fire, and the arrival of the dark. It was one of the ways the body knew it was safe. You can give yourself that signal again. It doesn't require much, just a willingness to let the dark back in. If this resonates, subscribe to Ancestor Tactics. This is the work we do here. And drop a comment below. When did you last experience genuine darkness, and what did it feel like? Take care of yourself out there. And tonight, turn off a light you don't need.